We are live. Welcome to the Magentlemen podcast.
Welcome to the Magentlemen podcast. If you're here for the nth time, we love and
12th.
appreciate you. 12th time,
Yep.
we love and appreciate you.
This is Steve B, the
Um,
Magento Miracle, and I'm Steve T, the Magento Melon.
you're you're like the guy from the needle drop, you know, Anthony Fantano, I believe.
I don't know it. What
He
is
has a
that?
YouTube channel. He reviews music and like his followers call him Melon because he has a shaved head like you.
Ah, okay. Very good.
So your joke that you thought was super clever has been taken.
Hey, you know, but he's not branded as like the Magento Melon. He's just a
He's not the
melon.
Magento melon. He's the music melon, I guess.
Yeah, totally different. What do you think of yours? The Magento Miracle.
I don't know. That's a lot of pressure.
How about the Magento
I'm
Maestro?
Magento maestro. Okay, yeah, not as much pressure, I guess.
How about Mr. Magento?
Mr. Magento.
Yeah, it's like Mr. Magoo.
Pretty. I think it's interesting.
Okay,
But
you're not loving
let's
any of
let's
them. Okay.
let's keep working on it. I guess
Magento
we got time.
McNugget.
Definitely not that one.
All right. All right. Well, so today our topic is legacy code base versus new, fresh code base, right?
Yeah.
Pros, cons, thoughts. Do you want to kick us off? You want me to kick us off?
I guess I could start. I'm I'm kind of dabbling in the fresh code base area right now, which is a bit newer for me because I'm used to just working on features versus having software requirements document or wireframes and just building a theme from scratch and just having a huge amount of work and trying to estimate and plan it out versus um, working on a feature which is just okay, it'll probably fit into maybe a day, or if it's really big, maybe a sprint, versus a website, that might take, I don't know, a few months depending on the complexity. So yeah, I would say the scope is definitely something to get used to, compared to working in a legacy code base. But then at the same time, it's a bit liberating, right? Because you get to make those key decisions in the beginning, and you're not having to debug some crazy code that some guy that was just learning Magento and had no idea what he was doing just threw in there to get stuff to work, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, but it also sounds like you're kind of dealing with like planning a whole project versus just doing like feature work.
Well, yeah, right now, and I know I had brought up freelancing slash contracts. So right now, what I'm seeing is a lot of requests to uh, like build sites from the ground up, uh, and basically just having to look at a set of documentation. I don't know who writes it, but maybe a project manager. I don't know. Some team wrote up this documentation, and they have an idea of what the site is supposed to look like, but it is a huge it is the project from zero to hero, or to
Yeah, so
destruction.
it's a bunch of features basically.
Yeah,
The whole project, and they kind of
yeah,
want like an
deciding which
estimate and
module. Yeah, deciding which payment module is going to be used. Um, deciding if we're going to use Portal or not. You know, it's a lot different for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess with that like type of planning, you're going to get into things like estimation, breaking things down as far as they can be broken down, like planning poker. I don't know if you have a team or if you're doing it all yourself.
It's definitely with a team, and since this is, and then it's like not only do we need to estimate how much time it's going to take, we also have to put a price on all of this, which is a bit tricky because you know we could if you estimate wrong, you could potentially be doing free dev work
Yeah, but I mean
down the line.
the price pretty much comes right out of the time, right? Like you know, if you I mean if you kind of estimate how long it's going to take and you say, okay, well that amount of time I want to make this much margin off of it, so this is how much the people make, and then
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe it's not as complex as I'm making it seem, but being kind of new to that
oh,
whole
it's it's
that
complex.
process, it
No,
is a
no.
little bit.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sounded like you were saying, "Well, Steve, it's not rocket science.
No, no,
You
no, no.
just plug in a few numbers."
No, no, no. The but I'm what I am saying is that the rocket science is the time estimation. That
Yeah,
everything else is
yeah,
just
because if the multiply by hourly rate and decide what your margin wants to be, what you want your margin to be. Yeah, good point. If the secret to this whole recipe is making sure your estimates are good. If you have
yeah.
bad
And I mean
estimates, well,
the the interesting thing about that is a lot of teams don't even estimate time. Like they estimate a thing called like points, and then those that eventually translate into something called velocity. So um yeah, I never got too deep into all that. Most of the teams I've worked on, we pretty much are estimating time. Um, but what you might consider is to have kind of like three kinds of tasks. So call a one like a couple of hours or an hour somewhere in there. Call a five like a half a day or a day, and then call a 10 like a couple of days or something, right? And then you kind of have an idea of like, I mean, even something that's a couple of days, you might consider that the type of task that's too big to be one task. And you want to break it down further and say, like, actually, this task has all these different parts. So we need to actually just estimate those. And it kind of gives you an indicator of like, hey, if I'm getting a bunch of tens out of my team and say, well, that one's going to take a couple of days, you might want to break it down further and kind of be
yeah,
like, these aren't broken down enough.
yeah,
And then also give yourself some padding because there's always something that kind of comes up. A lot of times though, that will get padded like by something else that went quicker than you expected. So
yeah,
it'll kind of even out. But I mean, I'm sure you know all this,
yeah,
but um, one of the big things that I
yeah.
always do
Maybe
too is
maybe a feature that a customer no longer wants anymore, and you just got it.
yeah, or just you guys all estimated it's gonna take a day or two, and it took like an hour.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you know what? That actually was just like this, and it was
change this configuration. Magento already does it. Yeah,
yeah, something like that exactly.
yeah.
But what I usually do too, and I don't know if you're actually wanting advice or not, but hey, why not? Uh, is I'll
Free
just make
advice? I want it now.
I just make a simple like whiteboard with like a couple of grid lines on it, and I give like if you're doing 2 week sprints or a week sprint, whatever, and I just line up each developer on the left side, and each developer gets a row, and then I on the vertical axis I just do whatever. If it's 2 week or a week, each gets a column, and then I make post-its for each task, and I just say 5 hour whatever, and how much time does this resource have. So if they're working 10 hours a week on the project or 40, that I know I can fill their little area. And then that gives you an idea too of like, okay, this post-it's actually dependent on this other post-it, so I have to put it in the first sprint so that it can get done. And it just, I mean, there's like programs that do it online, but it's so much easier just to have post-its on a whiteboard and just do it by hand, I feel like.
You're like, if you were a professor, you'd want to use chalk instead of a computer.
No, but I mean, have you seen like
No,
Gantt charts?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's overly like even Jira and Confluence and all that. You just don't have to do all that. I mean, you will eventually, like, but during the planning phase, you don't want to be stuck like typing and making these little tickety things and trying to put them into the right boards and making boards. I don't. I just like to freaking make a bunch of post-its and do my whiteboard thing and kind of like just plan it. But you could do that too. You could get all technical.
Well, yeah, I feel like if you're gonna get into Gantt charts and stuff, at least if you want it to have the level of detail where it's like super awesome, you kind of have to be dedicated to that. But like you, I go old school. I just use Excel, create a couple of rows and columns, and and make it happen really quickly, and not get into too much of that project management sauce.
Which I think you'll end up doing
But I
anyway, though,
think,
like afterwards.
yeah,
Like after you kind of have your, big over plan, like overarching idea of how it's going to all go, you have to take those post-its and turn them into Jira tickets anyway. It's just,
yeah,
they don't need to be that
yep,
right at the very beginning. It's a little easier just to,
correct.
I find. You could do, obviously.
I mean, no. I get what you're saying. Even like for me, for a while I couldn't read. I mean, I can read, but
I couldn't
I
read
couldn't
for a
read.
while, yeah.
No, I couldn't read like digital books, like because I couldn't, like, I don't know, something about like having a physical book. I don't know. It's just
It's the
like it's
smell.
so. I don't know. I had to buy the physical book in order for me to be able to get immersed into the book experience, and then and or into that zone. I kind of snapped out of it for a while. I wrote everything, and typing just seemed so foreign to me, like typing notes and stuff. And now I never write anything. Like if I write something, I just feel like, oh, it's disgusting. But I get what you're saying. Certain things, especially if you're comfortable doing them, uh, I don't know, just maybe it's habit. It flows much more easily than trying to create use some fancy software, even though it does everything.
Cool. Well,
Um,
I mean, I think I'm going to actually title this podcast a little different than what I think, because it's
we intended,
basically,
right?
yeah, the idea here, and I think it was good that we touched on this, was like kind of planning a new project with a bunch of features in it versus just being a kind of a feature creature who adds new features onto an existing project, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I think we kind of covered what we wanted to cover, but
Did you
not
want to hit any more
really. We
points?
kind of went around it.
Hey, we can always come
No, I
back
think
next
we're
time.
good.
Okay, all
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
Well, a tip of the
Well,
hat to you, my fellow Magentlemen.
yeah. As always, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and we love and appreciate you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.